Something is happening to Ariana Grande. Not long ago, she was one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. Every album debuted at the top of the charts. Every tour sold out. Every appearance became an event. She seemed untouchable. Now, every appearance sparks a completely different conversation. A new red carpet photo goes viral, and the comments have almost nothing to do with her career. Instead, millions of people begin asking the same question. What happened to Ariana Grande? Some fans say they're genuinely worried. Others argue the internet has become obsessed with picking apart a woman's appearance. Every interview, every public appearance, every new photo seems to divide people all over again. Ariana has addressed the speculation herself. She asked people to stop comparing her body to older photos, explaining that the version of herself many considered healthy was actually one of the unhealthiest periods of her life. It was a deeply personal response, and for some people, it answered everything. For everyone else, it only raised more questions. Because this isn't just about a few recent photographs, it's about someone the public feels like they've watched grow up. Millions of people remember the energetic teenager from Nickelodeon, the powerhouse vocalist who took over pop music, and the artist who somehow managed to survive tragedies that would have ended many careers. Looking at those versions of Ariana next to the woman people see today, it's hard not to notice that something has changed. Whether that change is simply part of growing older under an unforgiving spotlight or the result of something much deeper has become one of the most debated topics surrounding her career. The easiest answer is to blame Wicked, or the endless headlines about her personal life. But those explanations only tell part of the story. To understand why so many people are asking the same question today, you have to go back to the version of Ariana Grande that millions of Americans first fell in love with and trace everything that happened after that. Before Ariana Grande became the subject of endless online speculation, she was one of the most beloved young stars in America. Her name wasn't associated with controversy or constant debate, it was associated with talent. To an entire generation, she was the funny, red-haired girl from Nickelodeon who could somehow outsing almost everyone else on television. Ariana's career didn't begin in pop music. She started on Broadway, performing in 13, the musical, before landing the role that would change everything. In 2010, she was cast as Cat Valentine on Nickelodeon's Victorious. With her bright red hair, quirky personality, and impeccable comedic timing, Cat quickly became one of the show's breakout characters. The role proved so popular that Nickelodeon gave Ariana a second series, Sam and Cat, cementing her status as one of the network's biggest stars. The television was only part of the story. While millions knew her as Cat Valentine, another audience was discovering the videos she uploaded online, where her voice took center stage. The contrast surprised people. Behind the bubbly sitcom character was a vocalist with remarkable range, and the music industry took notice. In 2013, Ariana released Yours Truly, and the transition from child actress to pop star happened almost overnight. The album debuted at number 1. The Way became a massive hit, and suddenly she wasn't just a former Nickelodeon star, she was one of the brightest new artists in music. The years that followed only strengthened that reputation. Hit after hit turned Ariana into one of the defining pop stars of the 2010s. Awards piled up, arenas sold out, and her signature ponytail became as recognizable as her voice. She projected confidence, charisma, and the kind of effortless success most artists spend an entire career chasing. Looking back, it's striking how different the conversation was. People talked about Ariana Grande because of what she could do, not because they were wondering what was happening to her. For all the success Ariana Grande was enjoying, another story was quietly unfolding in the background. It wasn't about record sales or sold-out tours, it was about her appearance. Long before today's headlines, people had already started paying closer attention to the way she looked than to what she was creating. The first wave came in 2013, just as her music career was taking off. Fans began commenting that Ariana looked noticeably thinner than they remembered from her Nickelodeon days. The discussion never became a major controversy, but it spread far enough that Ariana addressed it herself, urging people to stop judging other people's bodies because they rarely know what someone is going through behind the scenes. It was an early reminder of something that would define much of her career. As the years passed, Ariana's image evolved with each album. The red hair disappeared, replaced by the high ponytail that would become her trademark. Her fashion became more refined, her makeup more dramatic, and every new era brought another round of comparisons on online. Eventually, the conversations expanded beyond her weight. Her changing appearance, darker skin tone during certain eras, and even rumors about cosmetic procedures became regular topics across social media. Most celebrities deal with criticism. Ariana experienced something different. Millions of people had watched her grow up, and many felt they could recognize even the smallest change. Every new photo became evidence. Every interview became another opportunity to compare her to an earlier version of herself. At the time, those moments felt disconnected, just another consequence of living in the spotlight. But looking back, they formed a pattern. Years before people began openly questioning Ariana Grande's health, the public had already developed a habit of treating every physical change as something to analyze. They just didn't realize those conversations were laying the foundation for a much bigger story. By the middle of the 2010s, Ariana Grande seemed unstoppable. Every album was bigger than the last. Her tours were selling out around the world, and she had become one of the defining voices of her generation. From the outside, it looked like she was living the dream every young artist chases. Then, in a single night, everything changed. On May 22, 2017, Ariana had just finished performing at Manchester Arena in England when a suicide bomber detonated an explosive device in the crowd as fans were leaving the venue. 22 people were killed, hundreds more were injured, and many of the victims were children and teenagers who had come to see their favorite artist perform. It remains one of the deadliest attacks on a concert in modern history. Ariana was physically unharmed, but the emotional impact was impossible to measure. She immediately suspended her tour and returned home, later describing the months that followed as some of the darkest of her life. Friends and family spoke about how deeply the attack affected her, and Ariana herself eventually revealed that she struggled with symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. The carefree pop star millions had grown up watching was suddenly carrying the weight of a tragedy no performer is ever prepared for. Instead of disappearing from the public eye, she returned to Manchester less than 2 weeks later to organize the One Love Manchester benefit concert. The event raised millions for the victims and their families and was praised around the world. It was an extraordinary moment of resilience, but it also reinforced an expectation that Ariana would keep moving forward even as she was privately processing unimaginable trauma. Just over a year later, another devastating loss followed. In September 2018, Mac Miller died from an accidental drug overdose at the age of 26. Ariana and Mac had shared a deeply public relationship, and although they had broken up months earlier, many people online unfairly blamed her for his death. The criticism was relentless. Social media filled with accusations, insults, and conspiracy theories, turning an intensely personal loss into another public spectacle. Ariana largely stayed silent, grieving while millions of strangers debated her role in a tragedy they knew almost nothing about. Around the same time, her whirlwind engagement to Pete Davidson came to an abrupt end. What had started as one of Hollywood's most talked about romances unraveled under relentless media attention. Within months, Ariana was dealing with the aftermath of a terrorist attack, the death of someone she once loved, and the collapse of a highly public relationship, all while remaining one of the most recognizable faces in pop music. Remarkably, she kept working. Albums were released, tours continued, interviews were given. To fans, Ariana appeared to be pushing forward, but beneath the success, the pressure had become impossible to ignore. The woman who once seemed effortlessly joyful was now carrying years of grief, loss, and emotional exhaustion into every new chapter of her career. And as Ariana prepared for what she called the role of a lifetime, many people began noticing that it wasn't just her life that seemed different. She did too. If Manchester changed Ariana Grande emotionally, Wicked changed her in a way the entire world could see. For years, Ariana had talked about Glinda as her dream role. Long before she became one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, she had been a fan of the musical. She attended performances, spoke openly about how much the character meant to her, and even joked in interviews that playing Glinda would be the ultimate goal. So when she was officially cast alongside Cynthia Erivo, it wasn't just another movie announcement. It was the opportunity she had been waiting for since childhood. Preparing for the role became a complete transformation. Ariana dyed her hair blonde, softened her makeup, and adopted a far more understated style than the glamorous image fans had associated with her for years. The oversized sweatshirts, dramatic eyeliner, and signature high ponytail that had defined an entire era of pop culture gradually disappeared. In their place was a version of Ariana that many fans barely recognized. The physical changes didn't stop there. As filming continued, people began commenting on how much thinner she looked. At first, the conversation stayed mostly within fan communities. Then, promotional events for Wicked started bringing Ariana back into the spotlight, and suddenly millions of people were seeing the transformation at the same time. Every premiere, every interview, and every paparazzi photo reignited the same debate. Was this simply the result of preparing for a demanding role, or was something more serious happening behind the scenes? It wasn't only her appearance that people noticed. Longtime fans pointed out that her speaking voice sounded different. The playful, energetic personality audiences had associated with Ariana for more than a decade seemed noticeably calmer and more restrained during interviews. Some believed she had become deeply immersed in Glinda's character after spending years filming the movie. Others thought the changes reflected someone who had simply matured after everything she had experienced. Online, those explanations quickly gave way to speculation, with countless videos attempting to diagnose someone none of their creators had ever met. Then another controversy arrived. In the summer of 2023, reports emerged that Ariana was in a relationship with her Wicked co-star Ethan Slater. The timing immediately became the story. Slater had recently separated from his wife, and the relationship attracted intense media attention almost overnight. Headlines dominated entertainment news for weeks, while social media turned the situation into another referendum on Ariana's personal life. Fair or not, public opinion shifted. The woman who had once been viewed as one of pop music's most universally liked stars suddenly found herself facing criticism from audiences who had rarely questioned her before. At the same time, discussion about her appearance reached a level it never had in the past. Side-by-side comparisons flooded TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Every public appearance generated thousands of comments, many expressing genuine concern, others crossing into outright mockery. Doctors, dietitians, and influencers began offering opinions based solely on photographs. Complete strangers debated her health with absolute confidence, despite having no personal knowledge of her life. The conversation had moved far beyond celebrity gossip. Ariana Grande's body had become a subject of public examination. In April 2023, Ariana responded directly. She urged people to stop commenting on other people's bodies and explained that the version of herself many considered healthy was actually one of the lowest points in her life. She reminded viewers that appearances reveal very little about a person's physical or mental well-being and encouraged people to think twice before making assumptions. Her message was widely shared. It also failed to end the discussion. If anything, the attention surrounding Ariana only intensified as Wicked approached its release. Every interview, every award show, every photograph seemed to pull the conversation back to the same question. For the first time in her career, it felt as though the biggest story surrounding Ariana Grande wasn't the music she made or the film she had dreamed of making. It was whether the woman standing in front of the cameras was the same person millions of people believed they had known for years. At this point, there are really only two competing narratives. One argues that Ariana Grande is simply changing. She's 32 years old now, no longer the teenager millions met on Nickelodeon or the pop star who dominated the charts a decade ago. She's lived through experiences most people couldn't imagine, taken on the biggest acting role of her career, and naturally looks different than she once did. From that perspective, the internet has crossed a line, turning an ordinary human being into a never-ending topic of public inspection. The other side sees it differently. They point out that this isn't about expecting Ariana to look the way she did at 20, it's about noticing a dramatic change and wondering whether someone they've followed for years is doing okay. To them, staying silent doesn't feel compassionate. It feels like pretending not to notice something that's right in front of everyone. Ariana has made her position clear. In one of her most personal messages to fans, she asked people to stop commenting on other people's bodies, explaining that the version of herself so many people described as healthy was actually one of the lowest points in her life. She reminded people that health isn't something you can measure from a photograph and that every person is fighting battles strangers know nothing about. For many fans, that should have been the end of the conversation. It wasn't. Every new appearance still generates the same headlines. Every interview still fills social media with side-by-side comparisons. Every photograph becomes another debate between people asking for privacy and people insisting they're expressing genuine concern. Neither side seems willing to let it go because both believe they're acting out of care. And maybe that's why this story refuses to disappear. The public has spent more than 15 years watching Ariana Grande grow up. They celebrated her biggest victories, witnessed unimaginable tragedies, followed every relationship, every album, every reinvention, and every setback. Somewhere along the way, admiration turned into familiarity. And familiarity created the feeling that millions of strangers somehow know her personally. But they don't. The truth is that none of us knows what Ariana Grande's life looks like once the cameras stop rolling. We don't know what she's thinking, how she's feeling, or what challenges she may or may not be facing. All we see are carefully captured moments separated by weeks or months, and from those fragments we've tried to build a complete story. Maybe one day Ariana will choose to explain everything herself. Or maybe she won't. Until then, every new appearance will bring the same flood of questions, the same arguments, and the same speculation. Not because the internet has found the answer, but because after all these years, people are still searching for one. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines. We break down the controversies, scandals, and untold stories behind the world's biggest names. Thanks for watching.